sketch this curve y equal to 3x minus x squared and calculate the area between the curve and the x-axis. Now let's start solving this problem. Now we have y equal to 3x minus x squared. Now we are asked to sketch the curve. To sketch the curve first, let's find the points where the function is 0, where y is equal to 0. Now to do that, we now say 3x minus x squared is equal to what? 0. Now if we factorize this further, x is common, so we'll say x bracket open 3 minus x bracket close equal to 0. Now for x times 3 minus x, it now means that x is equal to 0, or 3 minus x is equal to 0. So that means x is equal to 0 or x equal to 3. So these are the 2 points. These are the 2 points where you have x and y equal to 0. So you have y equal to 0 at x equal to 0 and x equal to 3. So that is it. So now, and again, if both are equal to 0, here will also be 0. So that means it is or and. So preferably I said and. So now since we have gotten this, let's demarcate the bond. Now let's look at the point where you have the minimum, where you have the point where you have the minimum or the maximum. So the minimum or the maximum or the minimum point on the curve. So now let's differentiate the y over the x will now be equal to 3 minus 2x. 3 minus 2x. So because if you have y is equal to x raised to power n, the y all over the x is equal to what? N x raised to power n minus 1. So using this expression, you have x here, which means x raised to power 1, and this is the same thing as saying 1 times x raised to power 1 minus 1. So 1 times, so anything raised to power 0 is 1, so 1, so this is 1. That is why we have 3 here. Then the other one, you have x squared. So if you differentiate x squared, with respect to x, you now have 2x raised to power 2 minus 1. So this will give you 2x. So that is how we got this. Now, so we have gotten this. So at what point, the y all over the x is what we call the slope, the slope, or we say gradient. Um, so at what point is the gradient equal to 0? So the gradient is equal to 0 at the maximum or the minimum point, or at the stationary point. Hmm? At the stationary point. Now, so where dy over the x is equal to 0, we have 3 minus 2x. So to solve for this, if you move this minus 2x to this other side, you have 2x equal to 3. So dividing both sides by 2, you have x, this will cancel out. You have x equal to 3 all over 2. So x equal to 3 all over 2 is the point where dy dx is equal to 0. That is at the stationary point. Or if it's a speed, you say a uniform speed. If you're talking about velocity and oh, or at rest. So we are considering this at rest. So now let's look for the value of y where dy dx is equal to 0. So the value of y, you have y is equal to 3x minus x squared. So if we substitute x equal to 3 over 2 into this equation, we now have y equal to 3 bracket open 3 all over 2 minus bracket open 3 all over 2 all squared. So we now have 3 times 3 all over 2 will give you 9 all over 2 minus 3 all over 2 square, you have 9 all over 4. So now we now solve this fraction. We have what? 9 all over 14. Sorry, 9 all over 4. So it means at the point where we have stationary, as a stationary point, the coordinates of that point, the coordinate of that point is equal to 3 all over 2, comma 9 all over 4. Is at this point. So now let's check whether is it maximum or minimum point. Now we have dy all over dx equal to what? 3 minus 2x. So now to check if it is maximum or minimum, now if we differentiate this further to get, we differentiate the y dx further, so we have minus 2. So when the second derivative of the y dx is less than 0, you have what? The maximum point. So that is the maximum point. So now it means that now if let's say you have a drawing like this, if So now if you have a situation where you have something like this, now if the x is increasing and the y is increasing, it means you have minimum pointers at this point. But in a case like this, as the x is increasing, you are decreasing. That means this point is a maximum point. So this is decreasing. So that means you have the at this point where you have this square this square y all over dx square is less than 0, then that point is the maximum point. So now let's make a sketch of this curve. To make a sketch, we have here is the y-axis, here is the x-axis. At the point where y is equal to 0, that is on this axis. So at that point, you have x to be 0 and another one x is equal to 3. So then at the point where you have the maximum point, y is equal to 9 all over 4, and at the point at yx is equal to 3 all over 2. So this is at the point where we have the maximum points. So now if we now draw, so that means this will be like this. If we now draw this curve, it will be in this form. Now we are asked to make a sketch. This is a sketch. Now where the area and we are asked to find the area under the curve where x axis and the curve makes an enclosure, and this is the area. So to find this area, what we're going to do is we're going to use this expression. Now if you have something like this and this is a curve, this area under the curve, let's say here is A and here is B. To solve it, you look for an infinitesimal an infinite, or no, let's say a finite element, which the top will just be straight and it will be like a rectangle like this. So this gap here will just be dx. So now the height here from here to here will just be your y. Will just be a value of y at this point. So now the area is y times the x. So the integral, meaning the summation of all these small finite elements in between A and B, will now be the area between these points, between A and B. Now to find the area between this curve 3x minus x squared and the x-axis, it will now be the integral of 3x minus x squared bracket open dx between 3 and 0. So this is the area. So to solve for this area, we now integrate this value. So if you integrate, you have 3x squared divided by 2 minus x cubed divided by 3 between 3 and 0. So to solve this, to integrate x, to integrate, let's say you have y equal to x raised to power n. To integrate this will now be equal to x raised to power n plus 1 divided by n plus 1. So with this, that is how we got this expression. So now, like, if you say 3x, to differentiate, to integrate this 3x, you have 3x raised to power 1 plus 1 divided by 1 plus 2. So which is 3x squared divided by 2. That is how we got this. So for x squared, if we to integrate this, you have x raised to power 2 plus 1 divided by 2 plus 1. So this will give you x raised to power 3 all over 3. Now we have, so to find the area now, you have to substitute 3 and 0. So 3 times 3 raised to power 2 all over 2 minus 3 cubed divided by 3. Now minus 3 raised to 3 times 0 raised to power 2 divided by 2 minus 0 cubed divided by 3. So the whole of this is 0 minus. So now we are now left with 3 times 3 square will give you 27 divided by 2 minus 3 divide this. 3 cancel itself 1, 3 cancel here, you have 2 remaining. So that is 9. So this is 27 minus 18 all over 2. So this will give you 9 all over 2. So the answer is 4 whole number 1 all over 2. So this is the area. So this is what we call the square unit. 4.5 square units is the area under that curve. So thank you for watching to the end. Do have a good time, and also do well to subscribe to my channel so when I make new video you will be the first to see it. Thank you and God bless.